No need for introduction, Matt, but I got to tell you, we are very excited about what we're going to be talking about today in the NFL.
We got a lot going on. The draft passed by. The schedule release was earlier this week. A lot going on, but we also got to talk about our top games of the week, our top games for the season. We're going to discuss that, and then we're going to discuss NBA and NHL stuff. But while we're on the subject of the NFL, I do want to give a shout out to my good friend Ireland Brown, who got a contract for the Miami Dolphins. Ireland was a undrafted free agent who attended Dolphins rookie minicamp and left with a contract. He'll be on the Miami Dolphins depth bench and offensive line, but maybe somewhere down the line he'll be protected to a Tagovailoa.
That's probably something we got to talk about here, but talk about the draft first. So start with the number one pick. We got to talk about what Caleb Williams brings to the Chicago Bears. I really think that the Bears offense is going to flow a lot better. I mean, I think Justin Fields didn't work out, but here in comes Caleb Williams.
And I think what Caleb Williams brings is a dual threat ability. He can run the ball very well. He can throw the ball very well. We've seen games at USC where he was able to control an entire game and take over a game with both his passing and rushing ability. I know Justin Fields didn't work out, but that was because of bad coaching and other things around him that he couldn't control. I think Chicago was poised to start over, but I think they hit a home run with Caleb Williams, and I think they also hit another home run with drafting the best college wide receiver last year in Rome Odunze.
That offense is going to be electric. And then the number two pick, Jaden Daniels to the Washington Commanders. I think the Commanders have finally found their franchise guy.
Yeah, I think Jaden Daniels is a massive upgrade from Sam Howell. I think that the Commanders know that Terry McLaurin is still there and Jahan Dotson and Robinson Jr., all that. They have a lot of good offensive pieces. I know they got rid of Antonio Gibson, but they added Austin Eckler. It's going to be interesting to see what this Commander offense can do in their first year with Jaden Daniels, but you also got to look at the fact that they did hire a new head coach, and we'll see what happens. But usually Jaden Daniels, defending Heisman Trophy winner. Last time the Commanders drafted a Heisman Trophy winner quarterback, you got to go back to 2012 with Robert Griffin III. Rookie year panned out really well. Second year, not as much. But good to have him in the division. Hope to beat him twice a year.
And then the Patriots. I mean, I'm very excited about Drake May. Day one starter. I know Jerod Mayo is very excited to be working with this kid.
And then Jerod Mayo, I think, rookie coach, rookie quarterback. I'm not going to expect the Patriots to become winners right away. I know you and I were talking off air about what the Patriots win-loss record is going to be. And that's something we'll get into later. But I think the Patriots, if they play their cards right, they'll be good in the future. But right now, not quite.
Well, and then the Cardinals got the best receiver in the draft, Marvin Harrison Jr. That's going to be good for Kyler Murray. You better watch out if you're going to be ready to watch the Arizona Cardinals.
And this is a Cardinal team that was competitive in every game without Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think that Kyler Murray, this is pretty much his real last shot to give Cardinal fans something to be happy about. And I think that even though Kyler Murray's been through a lot of ups and downs, adding Marvin Harrison Jr. to the mix, I think is going to make him so much better.
And then the Giants getting Malik Neighbors. I know you were fond with the pick, but what do you think he's going to bring to the offense?
I mean, he's got reliable hands. He can run routes. He makes tremendous catches. The only problem I have with the pick is that they didn't invest in the quarterback situation, which I think was really, really what the Giants should have thought about. I have no problem with Malik Neighbors. I think he's going to be a really good receiver from down the line. But if you're talking about another year with Daniel Jones throwing the football, I'm not entirely pleased about that.
I told you off air that this is going to be a year where I think the Giants could tank for Shadur Sanders.
Potentially that could be the case. I mean, we discussed this before, and I think the Giants, that might be the case. I mean, you have the Giants being the worst team in the league this upcoming year, and I think that maybe this is one last chance for Daniel Jones. And if things don't work out, which I don't think they're going to work out, then you got to start over again.
The Minnesota Vikings, they got their Kirk Cousins replacement in J.J. McCarthy. You know, I'm very excited about the Vikings now beginning their own identity because in the past they were the luckiest team in the NFL because their defense is still was bad the last 2 years. Their defense is still questionable, but the reason why I don't think they're going to I feel like they won't be the luckiest team in the NFL is because they got the offense now with J.J. McCarthy.
The offense is good. I think also this keeps Justin Jefferson happy. I think J.J. McCarthy was the guy who the Vikings wanted. I know when we did our mock drafts before the draft, I said that J.J. McCarthy was going to go to Minnesota, and I was right. Not at the 5th pick like I predicted, but he went at pick number 10. Ultimately, I think that this Viking offense is going to find their footing, not immediately, maybe like in the next 3 or 4 weeks of the season. They'll probably find their footing, but I think that Justin Jefferson is going to gel with this kid in the weeks to come. And I think in practice, you're going to see what J.J. McCarthy can do as a leader.
He's going to be a great leader. You're absolutely right about that. But I also think the Denver Broncos hit a home run with the quarterback here. In Oregon, Bo Nix. I think people think Bo Nix is going to be a bust. I think Bo Nix is going to be an upgrade out of the Denver Broncos quarterbacks because the Broncos tried Paxton Lynch, Brock Osweiler to start, but Bo Nix, I think that's Sean Payton's boy.
And I think that's really what the case is going to be. I mean, they got Zach Wilson for a 5th-round pick too, but Zach Wilson's not going to start after his tenure with the Jets. I mean, this is pretty much a given. The Russell Wilson experiment failed. Really, all the Broncos want to try and do at this point is try to get back to the postseason, the place where they haven't been since Peyton Manning was their quarterback. So they're really trying to get themselves off the ground. And I think that maybe Bo Nix is, like I said, not going to be an immediate impact. But I think if you build him up the right way, you're going to see success. And also, one thing that you kind of passed on, and I'm kind of shocked you didn't talk about this before, the Atlanta Falcons took Michael Penix Jr. with the 8th pick. That was the 4th of 6 quarterbacks to go. And you and I were both kind of shocked at the pick at first because they got Kirk Cousins in free agency. But at the same time, you also got to look at the fact that maybe the Falcons are looking at their future.
You also look at it, Matt. Kirk Cousins doesn't have guaranteed money after 25, so that's why they made this.
Good point.
So that's why this is a situation that he's not going to start right away. Because when I get Madden, I'm not going to start him right away in Atlanta because Michael Penix is going to sit and learn from Kirk Cousins. I got to let Kirk Cousins start first.
Yeah, I mean, Kirk Cousins is getting all this money in Atlanta. You figured that it would be unfair to bench him right away. So, yeah, try to get your money's worth with Kirk Cousins. If things don't work out after 2 years, then you put the kid in and see what he can do. One thing that I like what Michael Penix Jr. said in an interview after the draft was he said, I'm willing to watch and learn and progress over the next coming years and be where I want to be. So that's it. So Michael Penix Jr. knows that he's not going to be the immediate starter, but he's willing to accept where he is right now and try to get better.
Oh, yeah. And then I also want to tell you that what I predict out of the 6 rookie quarterbacks that will be week 1 starters, I predict 5 of them will start.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where it's going to be. I think that at 5 is fair. I mean, like I said, Michael Penix Jr. is kind of the outlier because the situation is.
If he were drafted by the Raiders or the Seahawks, then yes, I would say he would be the starter.
Or the Giants, for that matter.
Yes, but that's not the case. But those 5 rookie quarterbacks will be starting week 1, and that would be Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy, and Bo Nix.
Yes.
And when I forgot to mention something about the Denver Broncos. I mean, Bo Nix is going to be in a situation where he's going to hand the ball off to Javonte Williams. I mean, Cortland Sutton, I think, is going to be a big factor for Bo Nix. Also, if Tim Patrick is healthy, you better watch out.
And also, they took that wide receiver Franklin from the University of Oregon. So they took one of Bo Nix's teammates as well, which to help his development. I think that was a really smart pick as well. The Broncos are trying to become some sort of like the Oregon Ducks or the Sean Payton offense that was led by Drew Brees for a good period of time. I mean, this is a team that, when coached right, and Sean Payton is one of the best coaches in the league, they can be successful. But again, they haven't been to the playoffs in almost a decade. They need to get there first before we can crown them as even more than that.
Other than talking about Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft, we got to talk about the fastest man in the combine going to be playing with Patrick Mahomes, Xavier Worthy. You know what? The Chiefs won a Super Bowl without a number one receiver. Now Patrick Mahomes gets a number one receiver in Xavier Worthy.
I mean, the Chiefs' wide receiving core outside Travis Kelce was diabolical for the last 2 years, and they won without Tyreek Hill the previous 2 years. I mean, that's kind of insane. And I feel like I'm not going to say they're going to have an undefeated season with a rookie leading the receiving core, but I do think that the Chiefs are going to be more explosive, more consistent, and definitely more deadly to face in the playoffs this season. And
because they want that three-peat.
They want that three-peat. And this is a team that is looking to do something that hasn't been done in the Super Bowl era. The last time there was a three-peat in NFL history, you got to go back to the 1965 to 1967 Green Bay Packers, and that was just before the Super Bowl era. So the Chiefs have everything set up for them, and they're the best team in the most dominant conference in all of the NFL. And I think they're set up so perfectly. But again, there's going to be some growing pains having a rookie receiver as your number one threat.
Let's talk about best defensive player in the draft. Who do you think is the best defensive player in this draft class?
Oh my goodness, that's a good question. It's kind of interesting because the defensive prospects that came in this draft were not many. I mean, this is a heavy offensive class.
Or talk about Lyle Latu from UCLA.
Yeah,
he's going to be an impact for the Indianapolis Colts because the Colts have historically had a very good defense, and then the Vikings got Dallas Turner. Even though people say the Vikings are old defensively, they got younger up front.
Yeah, I think a defensive player that I'm looking at too, Leonte Latu, I think is a really good.
Or Teron Arnold from going to Detroit.
Yeah, also Dallas Turner was a really good pick from Bama. I know he was a guy that I thought was going to go to the Atlanta Falcons, but they passed on him. Dallas Turner, you look at him, he's going to be going to a place that I think is perfect for him in his defensive style, and that would be – hold on a second.
Are you saying the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Vikings are a good fit for Dallas Turner simply because the pass rush was never really there. I know Danielle Hunter is not the best player he should be at this point in his career, but I think Dallas Turner is going to support that defense just a little bit more.
Well, I'll tell you, Trevor Lawrence has a new number one receiver. It's not Calvin Ridley. It's Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. I'm telling you, that dude is going to be insanely good.
Yeah, I mean, Trevor Lawrence, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Brian Thomas Jr. I know Calvin Ridley's gone, but what do? You rebound and you pick up a receiver who's really good. I know Malik Neighbors was the number one receiver in LSU with Jane Daniels last year, but Brian Thomas was a really solid number two receiver. And maybe with a little bit of work and a little bit of practice, Brian Thomas Jr. could be very, very reliable and dependable.
Then the Bills, they got a new number one in town, and that is Keon Coleman from Florida State. I think he's no Stephon Diggs, but, I think Keon Coleman's going to be great with Josh Allen.
Yes, and, this was a route that I knew the Bills were going to go. We both knew they were going to go wide receiver because they lost Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs to free agency, and you weren't going to accept that. So I knew the Bills were going to go receiver. Keon Coleman, he brings – He's doing good at a little bit of everything. He does a little bit of everything. He has good hands. He has good speed. He's good at running routes. He's well rounded. He's not the best at everything, but he's good at everything.
And then the Chargers, not only they got Joe Alt to help protect Justin Herbert, Ladd McConkey is going to be catching passes from Justin Herbert now.
This is a guy that I feel like was drafted where he should be in the second round. Ladd McConkey You lose Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. You had to go wide receiver, and this was the route that they had to go. Loudon McConkey, outside of Brock Bowers, was the best pass catcher that the Georgia Bulldogs had last year. And he's consistent. That's the ultimate thing you need. And I think you're going to see Loudon McConkey a lot more in the slot. But, again, good pick by the Chargers.
And then after Drake May, I'm telling you, his number one receiver, and I think he's the number one receiver on the Patriots depth chart, Jalen Polk. Very excited about this kid. I mean, Polk has some nice physical traits, according to a source here. Nice body control to adjust to the pass. His frame has stepped up nicely. And then Polk has great upside. And then people thought he was going to be viewed as a third-round talent, but he adds size to a New England smaller wide receiver room, though.
And sometimes size is what you need. And one thing the article that you just read said, and I think this is absolutely true, the Patriots were undersized at receiver last year. A lot of their receivers were small and unathletic. So I think what this does, if anything, is going to add some sort of size and talent to this Patriots wide receiving corps that was absolutely abysmal last year. So good job by the Patriots. They fixed their offense, and I think we'll have to see if it works. Like I said, not going to be immediately successful, but I think they're going to have some upside going forward.
Christian McCaffrey's brother is now in the NFL. Luke McCaffrey is now going to be playing for the Washington Commanders with catching passes from Jaden Daniels. I think Luke McCaffrey could be good.
He could. The Commanders have a lot of wide receivers. Like I said, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, and you also got Brian Robinson Jr. at running back. You have a lot of talent in that Commander room. I just really think this is just a lot to look forward to for this Commanders offense. I think Jane Daniels, like I said, is going to have some growing pains. But once he gets past that, I think the Commanders are going to be in an interesting position.
Anyways, now that we talked a little bit about the draft, we got to talk about our schedules, but we break down the New England Patriots schedule first. So I predict Drake May is going to start week 1. I predict his first game is going to be against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if you play against the Bengals, Drake May starting, I think he would have an easier time with that defense.
Yep.
Just because the Bengals defense still has some spurts, still has struggles. They're still going to struggle in some areas. But I feel like that when playing the Bengals, you just have to find a way to put pressure on Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. But this is an offense that the Patriots are going to be in for a test with.
Well, one thing that we've seen over the last few years with the Bengals is that, unfortunately, the Bengals start off 0-2 every season. But if the Patriots are going to get a good first test, this is your good first test. A team that just missed out on the playoffs last year, but also has a good upside, and they're going to get Joe Burrow back. I mean, I like this Bengals team a lot. I think they're ready to rebound, and the Patriots are in for a tough one, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that game's going to be on CBS. The Patriots also have one primetime game, and that will be against the New York Jets on a Thursday night, but the rest of our games are not on primetime. But the only team that doesn't have a primetime game is the Carolina Panthers, not counting the London game because they're going to play that game at night or something like that. But the Carolina Panthers are going to be a team where no one talks about.
And unfortunately, I know your guy Bryce Young is there, but this is kind of deservedly so. I mean, the Panthers are not exactly where they should be yet, and they are playing that game in Munich, Germany against the Giants in Week 10, but no one's going to care about that game because both teams are going to be bad. And it's safe to say that until Bryce Young shows growth in year 2, Panthers are going to be really flying under the radar for a while.
Do you think Bryce Young will thrive under Dave Canales?
I'm not sure. I mean, Dave Canales is a fairly young name. But he did make Baker Mayfield a pretty decent quarterback in year 1 with the Baker Mayfield experiment in Tampa. So maybe we'll see some growth. I mean, definitely better than last year. Last year was a disaster for Bryce Young. But
I wanted Frank Reich to work out for him last year, but it just didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen. And The unfortunate part of it is that once they brought in Steve Wilkes, that also didn't work.
No one wants to work with Dave Tepper, the owner of the Panthers, because he's so impatient. He doesn't give people chances.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be something that hurts you in the long run if you're an organization. But again, like Dave Canellis is young. He's a new face in the NFL. He's a good offensive coordinator. I mean, the Panthers have better weapons than they did last year, that's for sure. Better weapons than last year. They got to get better at running back. I think they did that. But again, like Bryce Young, it all starts with him.
The game I'm looking forward to when I'm watching the Patriots play is I can't wait to see them play the Jets because I don't like the Jets. I mean, I want to beat Aaron Rodgers with our roster, but we got to face reality come week 3. That may not happen because we got to go to their place first.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you got to go to their place first, unfortunately. And the Jets. The Jets are unfortunately a team that are just better than the Patriots right now, and they're getting Aaron Rodgers back. And I know the Patriots love playing those competitive games, but I think without Bill Belichick, the fire to beat the Jets and just taunt them is kind of gone. I mean, a lot of guys, the Patriots have a lot of rebuilding to do.
And you talk about Robert Saleh. He's coaching for his job this year. I'm going to say that if the Jets are on the bubble or if the Jets make the playoffs, then Robert Saleh is safe.
Yes, I agree with you.
If he's either on the bubble or on the safe side, or if the Jets make it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Jets haven't made the postseason since 2010. I mean, something's got to give at some point.
Yeah, but talk about your Giants schedule. Tell us who they start the season with.
Okay, so they start off the season at home against the Minnesota Vikings and J.J. McCarthy. That's going to be a game that is probably going to be tough because rookie quarterbacks tend to play well in their debuts, and the Giants are not exactly a good team by any means. The Giants, I would expect this. If the Giants win this game, it'll be close because J.J. McCarthy has been a proven winner in the college level, but in the NFL level, it's going to be different. I mean, maybe those first couple games with Justin Jefferson is going to be a learning experience for him. But I would give the Giants the close win just because I feel like that's maybe that's going to give J.J. McCarthy a sense that, okay, this is not going to be easy.
Maybe I think the Vikings would win that game, but, we'll see. But anyway, so we'll talk about some top games here. I mean, we got to go over the Sunday Night Football schedule first, so that's why we can judge what's the best game out of that group because we got best division matchup to talk about here. But for the NBC schedule to talk about here, the Kansas City Chiefs are playing the Baltimore Ravens in an AFC title game rematch on Thursday night. That is going to be a fun game to start the year with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. The Chiefs, they're ready to defend their title again, but I think that this is going to be a game where I think is going to go either way.
I can say without Barrett that the NFL got it right picking their opponent. I think a lot of people expected, including you and me, we expected that maybe the Chiefs were going to be put against the Chargers in their title defense game just because it's Jim Harbaugh, but I think they made the right move. We don't know how good this Chargers team is going to be, but I like this Ravens team. You're playing it safe. You're going with the AFC title game rematch. Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry now are going to be going against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Ravens are going to be probably grounding and pounding it the whole game long in Arrowhead. But I think Xavier Worthy, we're going to see a taste of what's to come. But I think I'm excited for this one. I can't wait to see it.
And then the first Sunday night game, we talk about the Rams and the Lions. It's a rematch of the wild card game. I mean, Matthew Stafford makes his regular season return to Detroit. But I think this is a game where it's going to be a really good fight till the end.
I mean, you know how much I love Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions, and I love the fact that they put this game on there just because the atmosphere in Detroit for that playoff game was absolutely insane. And I think that this really goes to show that the Lions are the talk of Detroit now. And I think that this is going to be a very competitive and emotionally charged game that the Lions are going to be motivated for it.
Monday Night Football. The Aaron Rodgers returns after tearing his Achilles, but this time it's in his hometown of San Francisco. I mean, the Niners are on a revenge tour this year. I'm telling you, but this probably will be a fun game between the Jets and the Niners.
Very much so. I mean, you're talking Brock Purdy versus Aaron Rodgers. The 49ers were the team that should have drafted Aaron Rodgers back in 2005. They've struck gold and Mr. Relevant. This is going to be interesting just because Aaron Rodgers, we haven't seen him play since September 11th of last year when he tore his Achilles after 4 snaps. The Jets did improve their offensive line, and they improved their receiving weapons. So I think the Jets have a chance to maybe make some noise in San Francisco. But if you asked me what my Jets schedule predictions were, I told you the Jets would lose this one.
Well, and then we talk about the first Thursday night game of the year. I mean, it's between 2 division rivals in my division, the Buffalo Bills and the Miami Dolphins. I mean, this is be a great start to the Thursday night schedule on Prime Video. And I want to see what Tua does, and I hope he does get his revenge on Buffalo.
I mean, this is a game that usually plays in the middle of the season or late in the season. I mean, these are the 2 of the top teams in the AFC East. Buffalo is a new look team this year. A lot of their veterans are gone. Josh Allen is still there, but it's going to be a whole new offense around him. And whether or not Buffalo can succeed with new weapons around him is going to be interesting to see. But Tua has revenge on his mind, as you said. And I think the Miami Dolphins are going to be motivated to make some noise in that game.
When we talk about our best division matchup, we will save that for later. We got to talk about first our best conference matchup. That might come in week 1. I'm trying to see which one I think it's going to be for our best conference matchup. I think for our best conference matchup in week 1, I'm picking the Jags and the Dolphins because Trevor Lawrence versus Tua Tagovailoa to start off in week 1, that is going to be a treat.
Now, if I'm looking at the entire season, my best conference matchup is in the NFC. It's the Cowboys and 49ers. But if I had to go with a conference matchup throughout the entire season, week by week, I would say my best conference matchup in week 1 would probably go to the Rams and the Lions. And I think it's something because of the storyline, everything is surrounding the whole matchup of the game in Detroit. The Lions are up and coming. They made the NFC Championship game last year, fell short, look rejuvenated this year. And then, I mean, there's a couple games that are not that far behind.
Well, the reason why I say this, I think, is going to be the best conference game of the year, Jags and Dolphins, is because Tua Tagovailoa is going to play against Trevor Lawrence as they've had history playing against each other in the national championship game back in college.
This is true. This is true.
And I feel like that could be the next best NFL quarterback rivalry. Tua versus Trevor Lawrence.
Yep.
So, and then other notable games to look forward to. Sean Payton's return to New Orleans.
Oh, that's going to be a massive one. That's a game I think a lot of people are going to be penciling as their best interconference game, just because of that, how significant that is.
For me, that's my best interconference game, Broncos Saints, because Sean Payton is going to be returning to New Orleans as the Broncos head coach. And for the Saints, it's going to be business as usual when they have to play the Broncos. And Dennis Allen served under Sean Payton.
My personal best interconference game is actually not Saints and Broncos, although that is a good one. I have the Chiefs and 49ers in week 7 as my best interconference matchup. And the reason why is because it's a Super Bowl rematch. These 2 teams are phenomenal. And Brock Purdy's going to be trying to look for revenge against the team that beat him. And Kyle Shanahan's looking to get revenge on the team that beat him twice for the Lombardi Trophy. So I have the Chiefs 49ers as my best interconference matchup.
Well, now we got to – I know you forgot to add this in here, but we got to talk about Thanksgiving game to look forward to because that's going to be in week 13. There's 3 good games. We thought we were going to get the Harbaugh Bowl in there, but the Thanksgiving games this year. We got the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams going up against the Detroit Lions. I don't know why the New York Giants are playing the Cowboys. That's probably going to be the most boringest Thanksgiving game. I would have wanted the Houston Texans to play the Dallas Cowboys because of the Dig Bros. And then to conclude your Thanksgiving night with dinner and turkey, the Miami Dolphins will head up to Green Bay in the frigid cold of Lambeau Field. I mean, the game I'm more excited about on Thanksgiving is Dolphins-Packers.
That's pretty much accurate. I mean, we've seen Jordan Love come into his own last season. He won a playoff game in Dallas. Tua, obviously, high expectations for the Miami Dolphins this year. I would think that that's going to be a better game because obviously Caleb Williams in prime time on Thanksgiving. Although the Lions lose a lot on Thanksgiving, I do think that the Packers and the Dolphins are the best matchup. And that's going to be the 8:20 game on Thanksgiving. Giants, Cowboys, please.
Well, the Dolphins don't play well in the cold, though. I'll tell you that because they're going to be at Lambeau Field.
Yeah. So I like Packers Dolphins too as my Thanksgiving game. Why do the Cowboys even play on Thanksgiving? Please take it off. Please take it off.
Take off the Giants.
Yeah, please take off the Giants. Please take it off.
Should be Cowboys Texans.
Yeah, the Battle of Texas.
Yeah, because I like the Dig Bros. I want to see C.J. Stroud on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Well, we are getting the Battle of Texas at some point this year, just not on Thanksgiving, which makes no sense to me.
And then on Black Friday, the Raiders and the Chiefs. Last year, the Raiders did the unthinkable on Christmas.
Oh, God, they blew the brakes off. They beat the Chiefs at their own game on Christmas Day. Kind of amazing.
At their stadium, and I'm telling you, Antonio Pierce has a lot of passion and energy to bring the Raiders back.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned this before. I'm not a huge fan of Aiden O'Connell, but I think that if Antonio Pierce is as legit of a coach as he is proven to be, then he would make Aiden O'Connell a 4,000-yard passer, and the Raiders would be fine. They would go 8-9 or 9-8 and just miss the playoffs. But maybe the Raiders do get the best brought out of them when they come to playing Kansas City, so maybe we'll see.
Then we got our first ever Netflix game on Christmas Day. So in my Madden League, week 16 ends on a Wednesday. In real life, week 17 begins on a Wednesday. The Chiefs go to Pittsburgh, and the Ravens go to Houston. I mean, I'm looking forward to both, but if I had to choose one, I'm looking forward to watching the Ravens play the Texans on Christmas Day because Lamar Jackson, C.J. Stroud, both of my favorite quarterbacks going head-to-head. C.J. Stroud wants revenge on Lamar Jackson.
I mean, this is you pretty much answered the question right there. I mean, Ravens and Texans is the better matchup. I mean, do you really want to see an old and young up-and-coming Pittsburgh Steelers team trying to take on Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs?
That might be a boring game. I mean, Pat Mahomes might come into Pittsburgh and blow the waters out.
Yeah, they might blow the river out of the water in Pennsylvania. But I think that, like I said, I think Ravens Texans is the better Christmas matchup. It stinks it's on Netflix, but if you subscribe to Netflix, you're going to get the game. Ravens and Texans, it was a playoff matchup last year in the divisional round. The Texans started off strong, but couldn't finish the job. Texans are a really talented team. I think C.J. Stroud and the Texans, hot take here, the Houston Texans are going to the AFC Championship game to face the Chiefs.
Wow! Man, you're bold, man. You're bold. Wow. How did you come up with that? Because last year the Houston Texans did the unthinkable.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't expect them to win their own division. I didn't expect them to be a playoff team right away with DeMeco Ryans. But now you just got to love the NFL and how surprising teams can be in the NFL.
And it's not even just that. Like, the reason I'm saying that is because if you look at the body of work of the Houston Texans from last season, they're a young, scrappy team. They have a young, scrappy coach, DeMeco Ryan. If C.J. Stroud got MVP consideration in year one of his career, God knows what he can do in year 2. And I'm really, really excited. And plus, you had Stephon Diggs and Joe Mixon into that offense. That
And
defense is only going to get better.
Tank Dell back too. I mean,
Yeah.
Tank Dell is a sneaky good receiver.
Yeah, and you know what? If they had Tank Dell, they would have been in position to beat the Ravens.
For me, when it comes to my best division matchup, I'm picking the Chiefs and the Chargers because it's Andy Reid versus Jim Harbaugh, and you always get good matchups between Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes when these two play together.
Well, I'm going to go sneaky here. You know, speaking of the Houston Texans, I think their clashes with the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be interesting. I really think that now that Jacksonville sees that they have competition in their division, those matchups are going to be exciting. Plus, whenever the Chiefs and Jaguars play each other, it's always been competitive, even when both teams were bad. But now both teams are good. You know, Jacksonville now has to fight to win their division against this young, hungry Houston Texans team. And I think their clashes in weeks 4 and 18. I mean, just imagine the week 18 game. That could be a game where the division is on the line. And that could be enticing.
You're right. It could be very enticing because, you know, the Jags. I mean, let me tell you, I like Doug Peterson. He's a fantastic head coach, great offensive innovator, a good quarterback whisperer. He made Trevor Lawrence be an all-pro.
Yes.
And I think that marriage is still good in Duval.
It is. And I think that, you know, you pair that with a new face in CJ Stroud and D'Amico Ryans to go up against. I'm really thinking that we're going to see big brother, little brother kind of go at each other. And I think because I made the hot take on the Houston Texans, my gut tells me they're going to win the division, but I think Jacksonville's not going to make it easy for them.
Well, when it comes to best conference matchup for me, I already picked it was going to be in the AFC. I picked Dolphins and Jags because of the quarterback matchups that in Trevor Lawrence and Tua Tagovailoa in college. In the NFC, I'm picking the Green Bay Packers and the San Francisco 49ers because I really think that rivalry is back.
My conference matchup in the AFC, I'd have to go with the first place team. I'm going to go with Chiefs-Texans here in my conference matchup. I think this is a good test for the young studs to go up against the champs. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily going to go well playing against the champs, the two-time champs, in your second year in the NFL, but I mean, it should be interesting to see what CJ Stroud can do. I mean, CJ Stroud had a couple of major games in his rookie year. But in the NFC, I have Cowboys 49ers because it's the rivalry, because both teams are good in the NFC, and we're probably going to see that again in the postseason. Although that's not my best potential playoff matchup, it is my best conference matchup.
I'll tell you here, I mean, let's talk about revenge games. Which revenge game are we looking forward to the most? Is it Calvin Ridley versus the Titans versus the Jaguars as a Tennessee Titan, or Saquon Barkley against his former team in the New York Giants as a Philadelphia Eagle? For me, I'm looking forward to Saquon Barkley's 2 games against the New York Giants as a Philadelphia Eagle.
Yeah. I mean, the Giants should have paid Saquon Barkley the money that he deserved. And now he's in Philadelphia. Good God almighty.
Well, you know, the Eagles are going to be good. They're going to have a good team this year.
Yeah, they're going to have a good team. It's just I hate the fact that Saquon Barkley's in the division still.
And then you also talk about the Calvin Ridley versus the Jaguars. I mean, Calvin Ridley's going to have fun catching passes from Will Levis.
I mean, that should be interesting, too. I mean, Will Levis showed flashes of what he could do. I mean, it wasn't always pretty last year for Will Levis, but he did show that he can hold his own as the starter. And maybe his first full year could show us some surprises.
I mean, when you talk about best potential playoff matchup, I have to pick the Harbaugh Bowl because John and Jim could be meeting in the playoffs in the AFC.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. I can see the Ravens being the 3 seed in the AFC. I think that the Texans and the Chiefs are better than them as far as division champions are concerned. And I think that the Ravens are the 3 seed. The only team division champion-wise I would put below the Ravens would be the Jets or the Dolphins or the Bills. I think the AFC East takes a step back. I think that the Chargers are going to be a 6th seed. I think they're going to get a wild card. And I think we see the Harbaugh Bowl again in the playoffs. But again, like the Harbaugh Bowl, we didn't see that. The last time we saw it was Super Bowl 47 when the lights went out in the Superdome. But that was a great game nonetheless. And I think that Jim Harbaugh coming back to the NFL, he's going to be so motivated to prove that he's still got it in the professional level.
I think he still has because, Jim Harbaugh loves Justin Herbert. I think that the Bolts are going to be – I think the Bolts won't be boring this year.
I mean, you couldn't get worse than last year. I mean, the Chargers in the last couple of years, they ruined Justin Herbert. And now they have a guy who's going to protect him at all costs.
When we talk about best interconference matchups, I don't know if we talked about it. To recap that, I picked Broncos Saints because of Sean Payton's return to the Superdome.
And I'm picking the Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and Niners on Week 7 because that is going to be the best interconference matchup possible due to the fact that the stage is set. It's Kyle Shanahan trying to get revenge on Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes for robbing them of championships the last 2 times.
Well, Tom Brady makes his Fox debut in the Dog Pound, so his first game on Fox is in Cleveland, when the Cowboys take on the Browns. I'm telling you, I am very excited to hear my guy TB12 as an analyst. I think he's going to be great.
I'm curious to see how he does in his first NFL game. I mean, he's replacing Greg Olsen for a reason. I mean, that's going to be something that.
And Greg Olsen got demoted to the number 2 team, so he's working with Joe Davis.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Tom Brady can be the GOAT commentator too. I mean, who knows? But I think you're working with Kevin Burkhardt. He's going to help you out a little bit. I'm curious to see how Tom Brady does. He knows the game very well.
Yes, Tom Brady does know the game very well, and I also think that that's a game everybody's going to look forward to when the Browns take on the Cowboys. I mean, if I had to pick who wins that game, I'm picking the Cleveland Browns. I don't really like the Cowboys heading into this season.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys are going to take a step backwards this year. I don't know why. I think they're going to make the playoffs anyway. But as far as winning the NFC East, I think that's Philadelphia's division to lose. It's just
you got to put an at-risk at the Cowboys winning the division last year.
Yeah, I know, because the Eagles fell apart at the worst time.
What's that?
The Eagles fell apart at the worst possible time.
And did the Cowboys deserve to be NFC East champs last year? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and look at what happened when they got the postseason. It didn't matter.
It's the same thing every year for the Cowboys. You win 12 games in the regular season, and then you choke.
In the playoffs.
It's the same thing every year that the Cowboys go through, and their fans are fed up.
And like Stephen A. Smith says, whatever can go wrong will go wrong.
I mean, how many laughs will we see Stephen A. Smith at the Cowboys this upcoming season? I'm going to say it's going to be more than 4 times he will be laughing.
I think the Cowboys are going to do the same thing. They're going to win 12 games again. They're going to make the playoffs again. They're going to go to the wild card game again, and they're going to lose again. So that's 6 times, 6 laughs.
Are you thinking 6 laughs for Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah. 5 regular season laughs and a playoff laugh. So 6.
I mean, his biggest playoff laugh, I want to see his biggest laugh ever. But if the Cowboys lose to the I want to give you an example. If the Cowboys lose to the Commanders, I kind of want to see it happen so badly because Stephen A. Smith did that 4 years ago during the COVID era, and he said, "Did you see the Cowboys lost to a team that had no name?"
That's right. That's right.
I want to see
that. Not for nothing, though. The Commanders beating the Cowboys is like a solar eclipse. It hardly ever happens, and then when it does, people are so shocked, like, "Oh my God, this is an atrocity." And listen, Jaden Daniels. I mean, look at Robert Griffin III, for instance, in his rookie year 12 years ago. He beat the Cowboys twice.
Could Jaden Daniels do that? I think he can.
Maybe.
Because I want to hear Stephen A. Smith say, "How about them Cowboys? See you on First Take tomorrow."
I love it.
I want to see that in him because Stephen A. Smith he doesn't like the Dallas Cowboys.
No, he hates them. He hates their guts. So does Shannon Sharp. He hates them too.
The guy that is very delusional about the Cowboys is Skip Bayless.
Yep, and Michael Irvin.
He is a diehard Cowboy fan.
Oh, I know.
He always makes those stupid predictions about them winning the division, going to the Super Bowl with the talent that they have.
Yep, and they never do.
Skip Bayless gets mad, and one time. Do you think you'll see Skip Bayless throw his Prescott jersey into the trash?
One more bad season, and then yes.
He'll do that?
Yep.
But Skip Bayless is all about – I think he's all about the ratings and getting good ratings, but I just don't think his takes are that good.
Right.
He's just – sometimes people get annoyed with what he says.
Absolutely.
About the Cowboys or about basketball.
Mm.
So that's what I think here, but also – the next time we talk about the NFL, Matt, we're going to talk about who's going to win our divisions.
Yep, I can't wait for that.
I can't wait to map out who's going to win each division because I kind of I already have it all picked, but I want to save it until like August when I can tell you who's going to win who. I am pretty straightforward with who I want.
Yeah, I'm like with me, like you're all set up with everything. Me, I need a little bit more time because I have a good feeling of what I want, but then again, I'm not 100% sure. So I need a couple more months to confirm everything.
No, last year in the AFC, I picked Buffalo, but there were spurts that Miami proved everybody wrong. We were going to win the division, but it didn't happen. But the reason why I'm picking the Miami Dolphins to win my division this year is because the Bills don't have Stephon Diggs. The Bills will still be a playoff team, but I feel like Tua is going to be motivated to get that contract extension, and Tua's my guy right there.
I'm aware of this.
That's why I picked the Miami Dolphins because I like their receiving core better than Buffalo's because I like Tyreek Hill, I like Jalen Waddle, but when you talk about the Dolphins here for a minute, I think their offense starts with Tua and Waddle and Tyreek Hill. OBJ, I think he's going to fit that offense pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. I think you'll see more OBJ in the slot. I think he'll be used more as a third-string receiver just because he's been beaten and battered and bruised, and the Raven tenure didn't really work out as planned. But, I mean, he's still got some talent within him.
No, I think OBJ is going to work out in Miami because this is a good reset for him. I don't think he really had a role in Baltimore.
I agree.
Just because Zay Flowers was their factor, and he's going to be their number one.
I agree. I think that's how it works.
And then the Jets. I mean, can you say that Garrett Wilson is the number one? Hold on a minute.
Well, yes. Garrett Wilson will be the number one receiver. I mean, I think that's like no doubt in mind. I know they got Mike Williams in there. But I'm pretty confident and sure that Garrett Wilson is the number one guy, but Mike Williams is number two. He, when healthy, is one of the more underrated receivers in the NFL. And people don't give Mike Williams credit that he deserves. But yes, Garrett Wilson's number one.
Oh, I'm excited to see what he can do. I mean, I think he's someone the Jets want to build around.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Jets will be much better this year. I mean, I just felt like last year with the Jets when Aaron Rodgers got hurt, that really derailed their season.
Yeah, because at that point they weren't prepared to have Zach Wilson start basically the entire season.
I mean, getting Aaron Rodgers back, I just can't wait to see a fully healthy Aaron Rodgers just because I know that he's going to bring the lights out for for the New York offense. I mean, the Jets, they're going to compete with Miami and Buffalo.
Yep.
And Aaron Rodgers is – I feel like I want to see the Aaron Rodgers that people would say he's the baddest man in the NFL.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He's still got that within him. He's still got it. He just didn't have a chance to prove it this past season.
Yeah, because of that torn Achilles. I didn't want that to be the last image of him.
Yeah, I think he's determined to get back on the right track and prove that he doesn't want to go out that way.
You and I watched that game together, and what happened was his first game didn't last long.
Yeah, and then what happened was like the MetLife Stadium crowd, which was so excited at that point, fell silent at that when Aaron Rodgers went down.
Yeah, I have a feeling in the Jets home opener there'll be that police officer that sang the anthem. She's gonna let the fans sing it.
Yep.
Because that's also fun if you go to those type of games.
Oh, there was just so many things going on. It wasn't just the Aaron Rodgers side of it. It was the fact that it was September 11th. We all know what happened on September 11th. The fans are passionate about it. The police of NYPD were going up. Were all around, and they were just so prideful of how much they've overcome 9/11, and it really just makes you feel good, seeing a community come together like that over the Jets.
When it comes to NFL head coach hot seat rankings, Matt, could you just say that Mike McCarthy is going to be his seat's going to continue to get warmer game by game?
Well, Mike McCarthy and Robert Saleh are my top two hot seat candidates for sure. And the reason why Robert Saleh is because he's got to stop that Jets playoff streak of not making the playoffs since 2010. And then Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy has only won a single playoff game since he became head coach of the Cowboys. If that continues and he doesn't perform well in the postseason when the Cowboys are expected to win, adios.
What about Matt Eberflus? Are you afraid he's going to be a scapegoat?
I want to see what he does with Caleb Williams. I really want to see what he can do with the rookie quarterback. If the Bears, who I think are going to be sneaky good this year, win 8 or 9 games, then I think Matt Eberflus gets one more shot. If the Bears underperform expectations, then I think Matt Eberflus is gone as well. So 3 head coaching candidates on the hot seat.
For me, Matt Eberflus might get scapegoated, but I want to just see what he does with Caleb Williams. He's not going to call plays for him.
Mm-mm.
He's going to let the offensive people do that.
Yep.
So, anyways, here now we got to talk some NBA basketball now. So, 2 Game 7s tomorrow. The T-Wolves and the Nuggets, and
the Knicks and the Pacers.
For those games, for the Knicks-Pacers game, I'm picking the New York Knicks because I really think that this game is at MSG, and I want to see the fans there go crazy.
I mean, it would be great for New York City to have both the New York Knicks and the New York Rangers, who also made the Eastern Conference Final in the NHL playoffs, make it to their conference finals just because the city of New York has not been this relevant in a long time. And the Knicks haven't won a championship since 73. And, to see both teams relevant at this point in the year when we haven't even gotten to football, that's just great. But the Knicks are in for a tough one. I mean, they got blown out in Indiana last night. They should have won that game. Getting where the OG Anunoby is questionable to play Game 7. And, if that happens, I think the Knicks have a chance. But it's going to be in the Garden. The crowd's going to be loud. The Pacers are a young, up-and-coming team, but I don't think this is their moment yet.
And then Nuggets, T-Wolves. I am picking the Minnesota Timberwolves. I mean, I feel like the Minnesota Timberwolves know how to play with Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets because the Lakers, they don't have that recipe to beat Jokic.
They don't. But if you look at the Minnesota Timberwolves as a whole, look at their body of work. It's been their defense led by the Twin Towers of Karl-Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. And you look at Anthony Edwards now, out of his mind, he's been this postseason. I like the Minnesota Timberwolves. I want to see them beat the champs so badly, and I think that they do it, especially because the first 2 games in Denver, the Timberwolves creamed the Nuggets. So I think that Game 7, pressure on the line, I think Anthony Edwards is the guy.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then the Lakers. I mean, we got to talk about the Suns hiring Mike Budenholzer. I am very disappointed that the Lakers passed up on Mike Budenholzer. The Lakers should have picked him as our head coach, but Mike Budenholzer is going to Phoenix. He should be the reason why Phoenix wins a championship next year.
He really should be. I mean, he won a championship in Milwaukee. I think the big thing for Mike Budenholzer is, can you convince Devin Booker and Kevin Durant to stay? I mean, that's the big part that he's going to have to deal with, because if you look at the way that the Suns roster is constructed, it's Durant, Booker, and Bradley Beal, and Booker is rumored to go to New York to play with the Knicks next year. If that happens, then I think Mike Budenholzer's in a bad position, just because you got an aging Kevin Durant and an injury-prone Bradley Beal and a roster that's not that great. So, my opinion is, if Mike Budenholzer is going to be the coach and he is going to be the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, you got to convince your stars to stay.
No, I think Mike Budenholzer is going to be a great fit for Phoenix.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, anyways, here, now we got to talk some baseball here. I mean, the New York. I mean, you talk about the Dodgers winning Game 2 yesterday over the Reds, but Ollie De La Cruz really loves playing in LA. I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm. I know. Recently, he had 4 stolen bases in a single game, which is a career high for him. He's just unbelievable.
Maniac.
He's a maniac. He's a unicorn. He's an absolute unicorn. And the reason why I call him a unicorn is because you don't see a guy this well-rounded and stealing bases, hitting for power, hitting for average, hitting for speed, the way he does. Maybe Ronald Acuna Jr. can do that as well. But you're talking about a kid who just came to the major leagues and is not even a year into his tenure, and he's doing Ronald Acuna type stuff. Like, this is insane.
Let me tell you something. In my show league, Ellie De La Cruz is leading the batting race, and he's probably going to be the NL batting champ.
And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if he holds a batting title in the future. He's been that good.
He's the Reds franchise player. A switch hitter that can hit for both sides, and he's a guy that, in my show league, I use Ellie De La Cruz as the Reds leadoff man,
and rightfully so. I mean, you need a bat to get you started, to get you fired up, and get you energized. That's the guy.
Yeah, and I just checked out the Dodgers lineup. Mookie Betts is off today, so for the first time this season, Shohei Ohtani is leading off. And I'm pretty surprised about it, because there's been times where he's hit leadoff and pitched. Yeah. But in my show, I don't like to use him as a leadoff hitter, because I kind of like him to wait a little bit and try to hit with men on.
Mm.
So basically, in my show league, Shohei is almost at 40 home runs.
That's kind of amazing.
He could get to 50, but we'll see.
We'll see. On the other side of the spectrum, on the East Coast, the New York Yankees already won their series against the pitiful Chicago White Sox, who are now 14-34 this season. The Yankees are 33-14. They're the second best team in baseball, only a half game behind the Philadelphia Phillies for best record in the league. Actually, they're 32-14, my bad. 32-15. They're 32-15. They're looking pretty good. Juan Soto went 4 for 4 with 2 homers today. He's batting .317, looking pretty good in Yankee land. And you sent me a story not too long ago, Loro, that the Yankees are going to try to talk to Juan Soto about a possible extension to his contract at season's end or at some point during the season.
Yeah, I think that if you look at it, I think Juan Soto is going to remain a Yankee.
I mean, think of it. He's 25 years old. He can play another 12 years if he really wants to in the Bronx. Plus, he loves it here.
Oh, yeah, he does love it here in the Bronx. So, and talk about Shota Imanaga. 0.84 ERA. That dude is just something for the Chicago Cubbies.
The Cubs found a gem in this guy. I've never seen a guy go 7 innings and hardly even allow a run. I mean, .84 ERA, like that's just video game type stuff. That's something you don't usually see. Like, that's amazing.
I won't play with him until next year in my show league. Him and Yamamoto, sadly, but I can't wait to play with them next year anyways.
I mean, listen, if the Chicago Cubs make the playoffs, and they're on track to do it right now, I think Imanaga is going to be the main reason why they make it, because that Chicago Cubs pitching rotation got better because of him. And I think that's going to kickstart their chance to make the playoffs. I mean, they barely missed last year, but I think they have a chance to make it back this year with the addition of Shota Imanaga.
Oh yeah, and then you also talk about the White Sox. Or do you think Pedro Grifol gets fired at the end of the season?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, the Chicago White Sox have just fallen off a cliff ever since they hired Tony La Russa. And then they also had the Tim Anderson shenanigans while he was in Chicago. I know you said they aren't going to trade any of their stars away because they're injury-prone stars like Luis Robert and Eloy Jimenez, but I just have a strong feeling that if you're a White Sox fan right now, there isn't much to look forward to in the future because your stars are injury-prone, your team is bad, you're poorly managed, and all the above.
Yeah, I mean, there's some young guys I like Mike Soroka, who's from the Braves. I mean, he's going to be a future ace for them.
Yeah, but don't you think the White Sox need a total reset? Because just adding guys to your roster on an island of misfit toys, essentially, is not really going to help you win ball games. Especially if that island of misfit toys is, people that are other people's spare change.
That's a good analogy there because the Island of Misfit Toys comes from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movie.
Exactly.
And the Chicago White Sox are on the Island of Misfit Toys. They're going to be stuck in the cold in wintertime.
Exactly. That's why I use that analogy.
There's going to be a team. They're probably going to be one of those teams that's not going to be active this winter.
No, they're not going to be active at the winter meetings. They're not going to be active at the deadline. They're not going to be active in anything. They're just going to be there and just do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, they're not the Dodgers. They're not the Braves. They're not the Cubbies.
Mm-mm.
I mean, the Cubbies got a whole lot better when they traded away the big three in Rizzo, Baez, and Bryant.
Yeah.
And where are they now? I mean, Rizzo's still consistent with the Yankees, and then the Chris Bryant contract in Colorado is just flat out bad.
Oh, yeah, big time.
And he's just going to be stuck there the rest of his career.
And that's kind of unfortunate. I mean, I talked to you all fair about the three teams that are so bad in Major League Baseball. We just went over the Chicago White Sox. The Rockies are just a putrid disaster. They're on a whole other level about it. And then the Miami Marlins are just a disappointment. I mean, they're 14-34. They made the playoffs last year. They got rid of Luis Ariz recently. It's bad. I mean, you can get tickets for Miami Marlins ballpark games for $6 a person. It's bad in Miami.
Oh my God! Yeah, even Dodger fans travel well, so maybe their fan club group, Pantone 294, is going to invade Lone Depot Park.
Yep, exactly.
Just because their ownership group is so putrid, and I feel like the Royals are in a better place than the White Sox are, because I just think the Royals last year they were bad because they were young.
Well, I mean, we went over this too. Another thing that we talked about before we went on the air was we looked at the wild card standings and the playoff standings. If the season started today, the Kansas City Royals right now are the second wild card team in the American League, and they're 27-19. I mean, that's just something that no one expected this year.
The AL Central is still a bad division.
Yeah, but don't you think it's kind of refreshing to see a new team like the Royals come in and say, you know what, let's give this a shot?
It's because they're young. They're built. I like Bobby Witt Jr. He's the new face of the Royals.
Yes, absolutely. Bobby Witt Jr.'s there. I mean, you got Brady Singer's part of their rotation. They got a lot.
Cole Higgins is going to be a heck of a pitcher. That guy has good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also talk about not only Cole Higgins, Salvi Perez. Even though he's old, he's still a leader for that team.
Yes, Salvador Perez is still has a good presence in that dugout, which I think is useful for a lineup like the Royals.
Yes, and then you'll also talk about the Guardians with Stephen Vogt. If you got to give Stephen Vogt consideration for manager of the year in the American League.
I mean, we discussed how bad the AL Central is, but the fact that the AL Central is currently the second best division winner in the American League right now is actually kind of amazing, especially because they're playing better than Seattle. They're playing better than Houston, although the Houston is rising, and they're playing better than the Rangers. So that's kind of a testament to how good the Guardians have been. And you have the Twins who've fallen off a little bit. You got the Guardians who are consistently good, but they're not going to catch up to Cleveland because Cleveland's just a good team. I mean, the AL Central, I mean, the fact that they're better than the AL West is actually kind of a surprise in my opinion.
For me, it is because on the Guardians, I love Jose Ramirez. He's a guy that Cleveland has really invested in to be their franchise player over Francisco Lindor. Jose Ramirez is a guy that you don't want to mess with in the playoffs.
Exactly, and it's not even just him. They also got Steven Kwan, who's a good base runner, and they also got Josh and Bo Naylor, who are like yin and yang when it comes to batting. These are two guys who are just really consistent hitters. So the Guardians got a lot to look forward to, and like you said, Steven Vogt, first year as a manager, he's done a really good job of keeping his team's morale high, and also just making sure they come in to play every single day.
The Rays and the Red Sox, I mean, the Rays have taken a bit of a step back this year. The Boston Red Sox are still competing, even though they've had a pretty bad offseason.
Well, that's unfortunately the case with the fact that the Boston Red Sox are just not there yet. Other than Rafael Devers, they really got nothing going for them. And then the Tampa Bay Rays, we talked about, they lost Manuel Margot over the offseason. They lost a couple players like Tyler Glass now. They lost him. They lost a couple of their players due to off-the-field incidents. And it's a shame because this was a team that was 13-0 last year to start the year, and they finished at 99-63, but they didn't go anywhere in the playoffs, and they lost to the eventual champion Rangers. So at the end of the day, the Rays fell apart. The Red Sox are not there yet, but if you're looking at another team that's a disappointment, you got to go up north of the border.
Yes, the Toronto Blue Jays are a big disappointment because, I feel like you got to change the manager because John Schneider is not going to give you the Blue Jays a World Series. You gotta switch gears to Don Mattingly.
I mean, Don Mattingly has had success in Major League Baseball as a manager. He did well with the Dodgers and he did well with the Miami Marlins, all things considered. And, John Schneider just did not get the best out of Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette, the two baby Blue Jays. They're not baby Blue Jays anymore because they're getting older. I really see potential in this Blue Jays team. I really do. They have good players, but for some reason they're just not putting it together when they step foot on the field. And that's a shame.
I'll tell you this, in my show league, there's not Mookie Betts right now in my show league leads the Dodgers with 43 home runs. So we have a Dodger that's already over 40 homers with over 30. And then Will Smith is knocking on the door for 30.
Interesting.
So I'm thinking Shohei is going to end up with over 40 home runs. I'm trying to make sure he gets to 50, but if he doesn't get to 50, I care about him performing in the playoffs. Even if he gets to 50 home runs, I think he's going to show up.
Yeah, I think like I said, the playoffs really matter. The Dodgers, they lost in the postseason to two division rivals the last two seasons. The last thing you want to do if you're the Dodgers is play a team in your division in the postseason because apparently that just scares the daylight out of you.
It's probably not the case this year in my show league, but anyways, Matt, we'll end our show and we'll talk. We'll do a show again whenever something exciting comes up.
I agree. Take care, everybody.